Hi everybody, how are you guys today? This week, I hope you all had a great weekend. Just to recap, we've talked about policies and procedures. I've given you an assignment about anti-bullying. I hope you're all doing well with that. Part of a job as a teacher, you have many distractions, and my daughter was just, you heard this bloop, bloop. My daughter's getting watered. At home, this is the way it happens, right? You can't plan on it. It happens. So, and pardon me, I have to drink my strawberry mojito here. Oh, would you like some? Okay. All right. So this week, we're going to talk about differentiation. And we're talking about grouping. And a lot of teachers struggle with this. And I struggled with it too in the very beginning. But because I'm more of a creative type personality, I'm very abstract in my teaching, and I follow a different type of idealism when it comes to when you first graduate from school. So, when you first graduate from school, university, and you have your first teaching job, they teach you about differentiation in school. It's there, okay? But when you get to a school, say if you're coming to Oman or if you're coming to UAE and you work for a smaller private school before they've changed everything. In those smaller private schools, generally they don't ask you to be a classroom teacher. Something that you've learned how to do, now they're telling you, no, you're going to teach math. Math for primary. You're like, I don't know how to do that because I've been programmed to teach as a classroom teacher. So they tell you that you have to be very direct approach because these kids in this part of the world don't know how to be taught in groups. They don't know how to be taught in circle time because they've been taught since the beginning of their first grade year or their year 2 in the British curriculum that they've been at desks in rows watching a teacher at a board feeding information. And this is my biggest pet peeve because I've already talked a little bit about that before, where we need to look at the whole child and look about how to facilitate. So part of the facilitation process is learning how to differentiate your lesson plans. So when you're looking at your lesson plans, some of the things that you would have to say are like, okay, so you have what your goals are, your objectives, right? And you have the student will be able to, and then you have your maybe 1, 2, or 3 goals for each lesson. All right. And in those goals, underneath you have to write what you're doing for your differentiated students. How are you going to differentiate? So group 1, usually you divide maybe in 2 or 3 or maybe 4 groups depending on how many children you have in the classroom. You have group 2 and group 3. And group 1, their data is that they are below standard. Okay? Your group 2 is your approaching standard. Your group 3 is at standard. And then you do maybe have a group 4, and those are above standard. Okay? You're below standard. Maybe these children don't even know their ABCs. They don't know their numbers. They don't know their shapes. They cannot even identify their names. So because you're looking at grade 1, 2, 3, and it's really very low here in the Middle East, groups grade 1, 2, and 3, especially in Oman. I don't know about the rest of the GCC, but especially in Oman. Children in years 1, 2, 3, some of them still struggle in English. They don't know their ABCs. Some of them don't even know their Arabic letters. So it's really a concerning issue. So group 1, you're going to have that, you're going to work with them on ABCs. And this differentiation here is not for them to do by themselves. This differentiation that you're writing here is how are you going to differentiate working with them one-on-one? Okay, so group 2 might be something else, group 3, group 4. You're below standard, you're approaching standard, you're at standard, and you're above. Because whatever you teach them as a class, okay, as a whole class, you're going to still have to break up your lessons so that you can hit the things that you need to hit with each of the kids. So when you're planning your week, when you're planning your unit, and here in Oman, in the private schools, they only have 7 periods of English each week. And those periods are about 40 minutes long. So you have to plan, okay, so the first day we're going to do our whole group discussion. We're going to get out our graphic organizers and we're going to talk about what we're studying and what, build some previous knowledge. Then on day 2, we're going to do our KWL as a class. But at the same time, you don't want to talk too long because these children don't have that attention span. So you do your graphic organizer and you say, okay, children, now it's time for you to go into your groups. I want you to go to your centers and find your name. And some of these centers, these kids are not going to know their names. So it's important the first day of school to take everybody's picture. Smile. Great job. Smile. And you know anything about little kids, a little bit of a tangent here. In the beginning of the week, they're, ooh, mommy, I want my mommy. Okay, sit in the chair and smile. But you still take their picture because they can look back and say, wow, I've really grown up now because I don't need to cry in school anymore. So you take their picture and you put their little cubby or their little box for their things with their picture and their name. So you write their names in English or Arabic and English in both languages, especially here in Oman, and you put their picture. Even for grade 2, even for grade 3. Because many of them don't know how to write their names at this level. Okay, so you tell them that when I'm finished with this group discussion, you're going to go find your folder or your little box that has your name, has your materials in it, and you're going to go to your desk. Because many of the classrooms here in the private schools are very small and very tiny, and there's not a lot of room to put like a carpet and a circle time and a center here and a center there and a center there. So the setup of the classroom is really, really, really important before you actually start the lesson. So you do your whole group, your instruction, and then you tell the children that they're going to break off in their groups. And in your lesson planning, you've already differentiated which group 1, 2, 3, and 4 are all going to be working on this week with you. Okay? On the side of this lesson plan, you're going to write activities. Okay? And these generally are very easy because you have to keep the attention of the kids. All right, but they're still related. So let's say you're talking about Rapunzel. So in your activity center, you might have paper dolls. You're going to have some type of math activity with height and measurement. Okay? You're going to have some creative activity. Maybe it's with blocks, maybe it's with Legos, maybe it's with paint. However you want, clay, Play-Doh. Kids love playing Play-Doh. They love clay. Okay? You're going to have a creative corner. You're going to have a science corner. What kinds of animals, insects, leaves, grass, what kinds of trees would grow that tall? Open it up for your kids to discover and explore. And so those are going to be in your activities in your lesson plan. So you're going to have your whole group. You're going to break the kids into their individual centers, okay? And usually they work as a team. And in your lesson plan, you've got that, and you've also got your activities, all right? And then afterwards, you have a space left over, and that is called the self-assessment. Some schools call it diary. Some schools call it notes. I call it self-assessment, because after you finish all of that for the day or even for the week, you can go back and say, okay, well, this center wasn't so popular, so I need to change that. Okay, group 1 is still struggling with blah, 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 blah. Group 2 is still struggling with blah, 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 blah. All right, so stop there, and we're going to talk a little bit what differentiation and how can you differentiate and how can you put your kids into groups.